So welcome, Tori. One of our speakers has joined us, and there's Ray. Ray, I'll send you invite there, and we've got our speakers on. Boy, they are prompt. I love it. So Tori and Ray, you'll see at the bottom left, I sent a request for you to be a speaker. You just click on it, and then we'll stay on mute, and hopefully a few more people will join because I was just kind of being silly about the fact that a lot of people don't want to learn about academics, but that's why we're going to college. So I'm going to ask those of you who have joined us to give a quick tweet out to your audience to say, hey, I'm on this call. Don't miss out. How are you going to pick your major? Hear it from the academic people. And by the way, our Hear It From the Athlete Twitter space was our highest grossing listens. I just sent it to Jackie. It was over time. Oh, it got top tweet, earned 6,426 impressions. That is huge. So I was excited to hear that. So I hope you guys can all, again, retweet while we're getting started because we have a light crowd, but very important. And of course, we do record these and, we put it up on our Twitter again. And we also will put it up on our media page. So I am going to ask both of our speakers to mute while I start the introductions, and then I will call on you, and then you'll kind of go in order. That's kind of how we do it. And that way we don't get any feedback. And then our listeners, we would love it if you would put some questions either on the DM to either myself or our co-host Jackie, or you can tweet at them also, and we will get to them as soon as we can. So welcome. It is, I always have to look at the calendar because I never know what day of the week it is or the date. It is April 24th, Monday, and we have another smashing lineup of guest speakers here tonight. And I am the owner of Collegiate Sports Advocate, the #1 softball recruiting company in the country, and got both of these speakers because of our relationships with their respective universities. And I am in the middle, I was telling Jackie as we got started here, of doing 3 of our back-to-back big trainings. And I'm shocked at how so many people compartmentalize recruiting and they think, well, high school's over now. I guess I'll get recruited. When, if you know us, we're working as hard in January as we are now. So my lovely co-host, Jackie, you're up.
All right, everybody. I'm Jackie Wins. I'm from New Jersey. I'm a former D2 athlete in 2 sports, soccer and lacrosse. Although I didn't have an extensive background in softball, through my passion for women's sports, I've gotten highly involved. As you can see, I'm an OU fan, but I'm an overall NCAA softball fan. And I am somebody who, has met Sherry through the networking of softball, and just we've really bonded together over this passion of Twitter Spaces and getting information out to you, the recruits, the parents, people who want to be involved. So just overall excited to be here.
Awesome. And I'm going to show you again at the very bottom, there's a little heart with a plus, and we kind of give each other love or comments with our little emojis. And again, if you could tweet out and let people know we're here. We have a small space tonight, but we are recording. We're going to put it out there because this is going to be a lot of information. I want to first introduce Tori, and I'm going to let her do all the introductions because she has a spectacular background and a dynamic personality. And she was referred to us by one of our clients whose brother is their grad assistant on the softball team. So, Tori, tell us all about you.
Well, hello, everybody. Can y'all hear me okay? Just want to make sure because this is my first time being on like a Twitter chat. So I want to make sure I'm up on the times with like all the good media and stuff like that. I'm good to go?
Good to go.
We are good to go. And you can see our little emojis if you open up the screen here.
Gotcha. Yeah. I see it. All right, bet. So my name is Tori Clark. I hail from the lovely town of Arlington, Texas. If you don't know where that's at, it's like smack dab in the middle of Fort Worth and Dallas. I am a former, student athlete from the University of North Texas, where I was a member of the track and field team. I was a thrower. I was also an athletic trainer, so I do know what it's like to be on both ends of the spectrum. And currently, I am the director of student athlete development at Texas State University. So for those of you who are looking to, be recruited, going to college for the very first time and wanting to be a student athlete, I am pretty much one of the first people that you meet. And so my job is, one, to make sure that you understand the lifestyle that you're about to embark upon, because being a student athlete is not an easy task. It's not an easy lifestyle. You're literally working 2 full-time jobs the whole entire time, but it is the most beneficial job that you could ever imagine on planet Earth. But also, just a little bit about me. I love athletics. I love sports. I love people. My whole weekend is built around athletics, but I also love naps. Naps are top tier, especially if it's in between the hours of like 5 and 6, right after work. It's lit. But yeah, that's just a little small part about me too.
Awesome. And Ray, we would love for you to do the same.
Sure. I'm Ray Howell. I'm the Senior Director of Academic Support Services for Student Athletes at St. John's University in New York. And Jackie, I'm glad you're from New Jersey, because I didn't want to scare anybody off with my New York accent. But anyway, I'm a former student athlete myself. I ran track and field at St. John's, and had the opportunity to be the head women's track coach for 17 years. I worked in the private sector for about 5 years, in mostly in sales, educational sales, and also financial sales. And then for the past 15 years, I've worked as an academic advisor for St. John's. I have about 100 student athletes in my caseload, including the softball team. So I'm very familiar with your sport and the demands that the softball players have, and the pressures that they're under. And I think when you look at this situation, you're certainly entering a partnership where you can't neglect the student side of it. It's as equally as important as the athletic side. So I hope that's an adequate introduction.
That is fabulous. Welcome, Tori and Ray. We're super excited. And we want to explain kind of how this topic came about. So, even when our student athletes are filling out their very first profile on our page, it says, what's your intended major? And you're talking about maybe eighth graders, ninth graders. Most of them get into the process and the discovery of being evaluated quite early. And, there seems to be a lot of pressure about picking a major and what are you going to study? And yet, as a person with almost 1,000 student athletes nationwide, I hear I want to be a teacher, a trainer, or, kind of a PT type person, or a nurse or a vet. And I try to explain to the parents that that's because that's about all they get exposed to at that age, and that we should give them a little bit more time, and that we're not picking a college just yet because of its academics. We've got to figure out where you can play from your sport perspective. So that's kind of how it came about. And I had also seen that about 99% of our student athletes change their degree by the time that they graduate. So, with that said, I'll start with Ray. What missteps do you see student athletes make before they get to college in regards to their degree and coursework?
I would say that if I see a deficiency with incoming freshmen from high school, normally the two areas that they might be deficient in, which limits their ability to explore different majors, is math. Math is usually problematic, particularly higher level math, such as pre-calculus and calculus, which if the students aren't exposed to, generally they will shy away from many of the sciences, and particularly business-based degrees. So that would be one area that I feel is important. Another area that I think some of the students are deficient in is that they don't pursue a foreign language to the extent that they should in high school. Because most college curriculums require at least 6 credits in a language, and if you've taken the high level languages in high school, you can always take a CLEP exam and not have to take them in college. So anything that you can do to mitigate missed class time in college is beneficial in terms of how you prepare for your first semester in college. If you're prepared with AP credits, or you've taken some college credits in high school, obviously they'll be beneficial to you in college as you enter as a freshman.
Fantastic. And Tori, what are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree with Ray. Just because also a little bit of background for me, a little bit about my job is I have I kind of wear two hats. So I'm also the athletic academic advisor for softball and track and field. So I've got about maybe 160, 150 students that I have to look after and make sure that they're in their right major and stuff like that. But I do say that there is a lot of deficiencies in math, but also too, students underestimate the rigor of college coursework because they feel that it's the same as high school. So whenever they come in to see me on recruiting visits, I'm normally asking the question of, okay, I'm going to ask you the intended major that you have. So when you tell me your major, I'm going to ask you why. Now, if your why is because of something like you just want to make a lot of money, or you feel like, you want to do this because your parents do it, that's not going to be the same motivation that drives you to complete that coursework, because everyone's going to have a difficult semester in school, especially when you start to get up to the junior and senior level. So one, we're figuring out the motivations. Two, we're figuring out what courses would be a little bit challenging for you and making sure that you understand the rigor of what you're about to experience. Because at the same time, college isn't like high school. So for the students now, just focus on getting high school ready and making sure that you're putting in the specific, like practices, like making sure that your time management skills are up to par. Because once you get to college, you really do need those to succeed. And then any other practices that you can do as far as making sure that you're talking to your professors, you're asking for help. Like self-advocacy is a big deal once you get to school. So if you can practice that now in high school, you're going to be A1 when you come to college.
That's incredible and great advice. And I think we dipped a little bit into the next question, which was what advice. And I love the relationship aspect. I always say that your academic advisor is going to be one of your best friends if you utilize their resources properly. So this is a great lead in. And we've had a lot of buzz. We even had a Twitter space about the recent events of waiving the ACTs and SATs by NCAA or the universities. I'd love to hear your university's philosophies on it. And I know we haven't had a lot of time to digest it and see the pluses and minuses of that yet, but if there's any predictions on what you might see. So Ray, we'll let you go.
Yes, at St. John's, ACTs and SATs are optional. You submit them if you do take them. They will not necessarily hurt you. St. John's has always put a priority on grade point average and class ranking out of high school. So we're not depending on test scores for admission, and we're not depending on test scores for financial aid either. So the same aid will be available to you with or without standardized test scores. So I would say that since the NCAA has moved away from it, I think the numbers that I'm seeing are about 80% of colleges across the country will not require test scores for 2023 admission. Most of the state schools have moved away from them, and I think Columbia was the first Ivy League school to say that test scores were optional. So I would imagine that in the next 2 to 3 years, they won't even be part of the conversation. So at St. John's, we do not require them, and they're not necessary.
And Tori, what about you guys at Texas State?
So at Texas State, we don't require SAT and ACT scores, but there is a test that you have to take for college admission to kind of see where you are in understanding just college coursework. So I think it's called the TSI, which is the Texas Success Initiative, which is based off of reading, writing, and math. And so what I tell students is, if you have the option to take the SAT and the ACT, go ahead and take it, because if you get a high enough score in either reading, writing, or math, you could be exempt from taking that test, and you can just go right into taking like English 1, English 2, or college algebra. Because what will happen is, if you don't take the SAT, but your TSI scores aren't high enough, you'll get put into like the developmental classes, which aren't a bad thing at all, but it does delay your graduation just a little bit. And also, too, here at Texas State, we do rely on those test scores for scholarships. So I don't know about y'all, but I love free money because college is expensive and nobody wants to pay that money back, like, at all. So I just tell students, the more information that you have, the better chances you are of getting a bigger return. Now, understanding that you may not be really really good at taking that test, but that's okay because it then allows you to see as far as what college coursework will look like and also what college exams will look like. So it gives you just a little bit of taste of what you're about to walk into.
I love it. And I don't mean to keep adding content to this, but I would often wonder as time goes on if that lowers our academic learning environment, if, it lessens the quality of a Columbia, or, if they're letting in students that actually don't compete well in the classroom, if that's going to hurt their time and experience there, because the stress of being a student athlete when you're not able to compete at those standards can sometimes be a lot for a student athlete. And then it brings into another question on here that I thought would coincide with what you guys just said is, waiving the money, of course, is always an issue on the female side, because they get so much reward from their academics right now. But we also have dual credits that happen in Texas. And I've seen this across a few states that they spend so much time focusing on just passing those dual credits and not really learning. And then they don't do well on the tests, and then they don't do well in the classroom because they've kind of gotten involved in cramming instead of learning. What are you guys' thoughts on that? And Tori, I'll flip it to you first this time.
Thank you. So my thought is when I'm talking to a student, I'm talking to them about understanding your learning style. So understand that I try to put it in the space of like college is your job, right? Your job is to go to class, take in the information, and then give it back and apply it to the professor, right? So whenever I'm talking to students, I'm saying, okay, what is the best way for you to understand information? For me, I have to take in information a little bit at a time. So I'm studying 4 weeks in advance for an exam that is probably a month down the road. Now, some of my students, they can't do that because they feel that they're moving too slow. So a lot of them want it to be a little more fast paced and they like to be on the edge. So they like to feel like they're on Shark Tank and wait 4 days before the exam to actually get the information in. But that's the way that they work for their best work. Because for me and teaching my students, understanding that like you're not in just one mold. There's not one mold that just fits you, but it's understanding how you work best. So then if I start to see that you're being lazy and you're waiting until the last minute and we're not getting your best work, we're going to have a conversation to make sure that you're changing your dynamic because the classroom, the workspace, and the field are the exact same. Like your tendencies don't change just because you're in a different space. No, 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 no. They follow you everywhere you go. So just making sure that you're breaking those habits because once you get to, especially softball, I work with them now, and y'all are literally playing 2, 3, 4, 5 games a week. There's no time for you to wait to cram to slack off because then that's a reflection on how you are on the field. And then that's also a reflection of how you're going to be in the workspace. And you don't want those reflections to be poor. You want them to be high, right? So anytime that you get something, just make sure you do it. That way it's out the way. And then that way you can actually focus on, the task at hand, which is hitting balls and getting home runs.
Ray, would love to hear you add to this.
Yeah, if do you want me to speak more specifically about dual credit programs or?
Sure. I mean, dive in, your
Yeah,
experience and knowledge. I mean, we're just soaking it all up. We love it.
yeah. So if you're able to, if you're able to gain college credit or AP credits in high school, um, they are beneficial to you because in many cases, we've had students that have transferred in over 30, maybe closer to 40 sometimes, applicable credits from high school, which really saves you, could save you like a year of working in college. And students that come in with college credits or AP credits, we can kind of fast track them into combined degree programs where they can complete a bachelor's and a master's degree, either in 4 or 5 years. They transfer in. So I don't think it's a negative, and I know that it can elevate GPAs, but basically our admission office they will look at a high school transcript and they will interpret it based on starting at 100 and work backwards from there. So I don't necessarily think it's a negative. Going back to one of the points that was made earlier, I do think it exposes high school students to academic rigor, which is something that sometimes is a period of time that they have to adapt to in college. So they might come in slightly more prepared if they are exposed to dual credit type programs where they are taking higher level courses in high school. I don't necessarily think it's a negative. And if there is a goal such as earning a combined degree, I do think it's quite a positive, to be honest with you.
Excellent. Are there some examples of maybe student athletes, you don't have to say their name, of course, or types of things or decisions people have made that's cost them extra coursework or extra semesters in class, like maybe changing a major or doing any of those changes that happen when they get to college? Tori, go ahead.
Yeah, that has definitely happened. And so for my students, I give you about a year and a half to kind of figure out what you want. But currently, right now, I have had a student who wanted to be a civil engineer, but we just could not pass. I think it was like calculus 3, and so I think he took the class 3 times, and so that had pushed him back a whole year. So I mean, we had to kind of change his degree where he still was able to take. Um, where he still was able to take engineering courses, but the degree wouldn't say engineering. So we do have that fact because at the end of the day, we all know how to pivot. That's like the word that we use in my office. So if there are some issues or some challenges, like I'm just going to be straight up with you. I'm going to be real honest. Like I've had a lot of students who wanted to be, I had one student who wanted to be a business major, but we could not just pass the business math to get into the actual business school. So I had to have the honest conversation of, your major is really math heavy. And if we can't pass this math, then there's probably going to be some issues that are coming down the line. And it's up to the point. Like, do you really want to struggle in this major? Or can we change and pick a different path for you where you're still able to play? Because that's the reason that you want to be here. That's the main driving force and motivation to get you to go to class and to do your work. So it's just really all about, for me in my space, it's just finding out what the motivations are. But yeah, I've had quite a few students have to change their major based off of, not living up to the expectations or not completing coursework safely. But that's okay, because for me, I understand that you will have some challenges. Like that's perfectly fine, because mistakes will be made. But the point is to figure out how to rectify those and how not to make those again.
Great. And Ray, what can you add here?
Well, Tori made some great points there. So to play it safe with my student athletes, the certainly when they're advised for what would be their fourth semester in college, they need to have a major declared. If you're not on track by then, what you're basically doing is creating scheduling problems for yourself down the road because you're kind of backloading your major courses, and you will ultimately have problems scheduling them so they don't conflict with practices and competition. So my preference is that after 2 semesters or 1 year of college, you've declared a major and you're ready to stick with it. But certainly by your third semester, when you're being advised for your fourth semester, which would be halfway through college, you really need to be on track with a major. As you know, that Division I, you have to 40% of degree applicable credits completed after your second year. So changing a major could impact the number of credits you're earning because not all credits are transferable from one major to another. So it really depends on which majors you're trying to switch to. For example, if you're in a science heavy major and you try and go into a business program, all of those science credits will not transfer into business. So you will actually lose credits just by transferring from one major to another. And the other final point in terms of what could impact your progress in college, student athletes that withdraw from classes, that is a problem because often they might take too many credits in one semester, not realizing how heavy their schedule might be. And they'll come to me maybe midway through the semester and talk about withdrawing from a class. And I have this thing where if a student athlete comes to me about a withdrawal, they almost never can be talked out of it. They've already made up their mind. So I almost always let them withdraw, because I feel if I don't, they're probably going to mail it in from that point forward. But student athlete withdrawals can become problematic if they start to do it on a regular basis. Those are some of the things which will impact earned credits.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. And what do you think, Ray? I'll go back to you here. Some of the best degree choices are for athletes. Is there one what you think is wide enough and a variety enough that maybe they go on to post-secondary degree to, to finish up what they really need to figure out in order to get through being an athlete and maybe find their passion?
Well, I think that and during the recruiting process, when I do meet with student athletes on their visits, I really feel that it's unfair for anyone to try and talk a student athlete out of what they might want to pursue. Um, the only thing that I can do is give them the realities of that major. For example, if a student athlete wants to be involved in the sciences, they'll have to understand that the science track usually includes a lecture, a lab, a recitation. So it's hard to schedule those different courses and work it around a student athlete schedule. It's not impossible, and most coaches will support that, but it's difficult. And I think they have to recognize the parameters of the degrees that they're interested in. However, with using online classes wisely, and even classes that might begin, let's say, after 5 p.m., a student athlete can balance out really almost any major. Um, it's more of a choice of, whether or not they're ready for the academic rigor of that major, as opposed to the scheduling problems. But I really want to give every student athlete an opportunity to pursue what they want to pursue, and maybe in the initial semesters of college, be more core heavy in case they do decide to change their mind and go in a different direction. And that'll mitigate the lost credits that we might face in a major transfer.
Excellent. And Tori, what's been your experience here?
Yeah. So with my experience, especially talking with Ray, or listening to Ray talking about withdrawals and everything like that, here at Texas State, they will count. They'll count the number of withdrawals you have, and that's not necessarily a ding towards your GPA, but it doesn't look great on your transcript because it gives the story of, oh, things got too hard, so you backed out. And so that's why I talk with my students about, why do you feel that you need to withdraw from this class? If it's something that, the information is just too hard, well, let's see if we can get, tutoring. Let's see if we can get some, hours with your professor. Let's see if we can go ahead and make sure that we take advantage of all of our resources before we go ahead and withdraw. Because I'll typically bring that conversation up around the first exam. So that way they have about 3 weeks or so to kind of figure out if they really want to withdraw from the class, or are they just nervous because it's something that they've never done before. And I typically put it in sports terms or something they can understand. So especially with softball, it's like, hey, here at Texas State, like, we're facing the number 8 team in the nation, which is Texas. Like, are you going to fold, or are you going to, walk up to the plate and swing your bat? Pick one. And so they're like, okay, Tori, like, I got it. I like that. Okay, we can keep it going. But if it's like that second exam, I'm like, all right, we might want to step away from the plate a little bit so we can go ahead and, not have this ding on your GPA, but we'll come back and circle back and take this class again. But also for my students, when I'm planning out their schedules, in that first year and a half, we're only doing core courses. And if they have their mindset on a specific degree, then I'm plugging in different courses for that degree that fit into their core to make sure that that's the degree that they want. But then also too, just kind of making sure that, they're just really staying on track and everything like that. But yeah, we've had some trouble and stuff like that. But typically for my students, it's more so the fact that they just get nervous, very, very nervous, because they feel like if they make a mistake here, then they won't be able to change it, or they won't be able to, turn it around or anything like that. And I feel like that there was another part of that question that I'm missing. Can you like repeat that for me?
Well, I think you covered it well,
Oh, I did.
but
Okay.
yeah, I want to add in here, and maybe you could
Hmm.
take the mic here. Is what are
Yeah.
some of the high demand degrees and things that you're seeing as trends of types of degrees that a student athlete might want to have and make money?
Right. So I have a lot of students that come in wanting to do business, or they want to do PT and PT for physical therapy, or they want to go into med school or nursing. So those are the like three or four that I kind of see that they want. So I do ask my students like, hey, this major is going to have a lot of labs. It's really math heavy. It's really science heavy. So let me go ahead and give you this math or this science in your core and see how you do. And then I asked them, okay, if you want to do business, why do you want to do business? Because for my students, if they want to go into like something really specified, like accounting, econ, or they want to be in like a financial plan or something like that, then I go ahead and tell them, okay, business may be the track for you. But if you're saying you just want to be an entrepreneur, I'm saying, okay, you don't necessarily have to do business itself. It might be best for you to major in and become the expert in the product that you're going to sell. Because at the end of the day, business is all about like risk and reward. So you kind of learn that on the job. However, if you're going to be selling a service or a product, you might want to be the expert in that because that's what people are going to be asking you for. That's what your customers are going to be asking you for. And that's going to be the main drive and force of your career. But also, too, we do have a major here at Texas State that I feel that gets a lot of, um, not necessarily a lot of negative attention, but it's one of the majors that people don't necessarily know about. It's our general studies major. It sounds kind of like I guess lower played, but it's a major where if you don't necessarily know what you want to do, but you have all of these different aspects and all these different dreams that you're interested in, you can pick 3 areas of study. So I know I have students that will do um, business, coaching, and communication, and you can take about I think 9 or 12 classes for each section, and that's how you build your own major. Because I have students that really want to be coaches, they want to be athletic directors, and they really want to work with people, but they don't know how to take their passions and put that into a specific major. So we pretty much here have a build your major, and they feel a lot more inclined. They feel a lot more of their control within their area of study, and they feel a lot more pride because it is something that they've built. And it's something that they feel a lot more motivated to, do their work and do their best in because they did handpick it. But also when I have my students who do any kind of med school, nursing, or anything like that, I do give them the upfront notice that, hey, this major is difficult. You will not have the time to lollygag. You won't have the time to fall behind. You really have to be on your P's and Q's. And if that's someone that you are, then okay, cool. Great. Awesome. But if you know that that's not you, we'll try it out for this first year. So that way you can kind of get your feet wet. But if you understand that this major isn't necessarily for you, then we can try something else. But I do allow my students to just kind of, at the end of the day, and I do not mean this in any kind of negative way, but students, if you're here on this call, do understand that your major is just that. It's your major. Because at the end of the day, you're the person that's having to go to class. You're the one that's having to sit in front of that test. You're the one that's going to have to graduate with that degree. So just understanding that the major that you pick is something that you feel that you're passionate about, to get up Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 for, and to make sure that you're willing to do that to change the world.
That's awesome. And Ray,
Mm-hmm.
what about St. John's? What are some of the different coursework or things that you're seeing out there?
Well, I can tell you our most popular major, our most popular majors in the athletic department among the 400 or so student athletes that attend St. John's. The number one major is sport management. It's not the number one major by much, but it has consistently been the top major in our department for quite some time. Um, business has been on an upward trend for probably the last 10 years. Um, and finance within general business, finance has been the number one track. But some of the other tracks like accounting are starting to emerge. Also, computer science is overall is becoming a more popular major within student athletes and within the university itself. Um, Other popular majors, psychology is a popular major. Communications and criminal justice are very popular majors. Health and human services is another popular major. And then anything within the sciences, and that would include biology. We also offer some pre-med programs like biomed and toxicology, which might lead to programs such as physician's assistant pharmacy, or even the nursing school, which is an undergraduate major at St. John's as well. They're not popular, but they are trending. I would say they're trending in the right direction. And one other major that actually has grown in the past few years is education. That number kind of cycles up and down. We've been as low as maybe 2% of our department, but right now I think we're about 9% of our department. So that's a major that comes in and out of popularity. So, but sport management has been a popular one for quite some time. It's a great program. I actually teach in the program, and we think it's a very natural fit for student athletes to gravitate towards that major.
Well, that makes sense. My daughter graduated the University of Kansas with a sports management
Well, there
degree
you go.
playing softball, so it sounds like it's popular.
But
So,
if I may make one more point there,
yes, please.
within sports management, you are taking 18 credits of business. So you are taking you're taking accounting, management, marketing, economics, and you can actually turn that into a business track minor. Um, just to reiterate that it sounds like it's coaching classes, but it really has a business element to it that most students may not recognize when they're looking for a major, but it's a very big part of the major, the business part of it.
And that's a great add. And I'm going to hold my next question to just remind the audience, we're about halfway through. We would love to hear from you guys. Our DMs are open. You can put the question up on Twitter, but, utilize this opportunity. We're a small group, but a powerful group. And I see Jackie's hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in here. One thing when I'm working with my high school athletes and their recruitment is that most high schoolers don't know that there are major maps out there for all the universities. If you want to be an education major, all the classes you need to take. If you want to be a business major, all the classes that you need to take for that university. And one thing that I highly suggest is, it's great to dream about being, a scientist, but you're failing biology in high school. Pull up the maps from the schools that you're looking at, and see ahead of time, hey, that's what I would need to take. Oh no, I failed biology and chemistry in high school. Maybe that's not the best track. So that you really understand what's involved, because I think in high school, right, it's sort of like you're trying to put together these puzzle pieces of, oh, I'm interested in this, but interest is absolutely one motivating factor, but completion is an even more motivating factor once you're actually in the job of athletics and your education. And so if you're failing things, or you're just trying to figure it out and scratching by, it may not be motivating anymore or of interest. So I highly suggest pulling up, and it's easy to do. I know there's somebody, whether it be Sherry or the academic advisor, as you're going through your recruitment, can help you and assist you with that.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to go back to you, Ray, because the next question, you brought up some great degrees. Are there some degrees where you're encouraging them and setting them up to understand that they'll need a postgraduate degree?
Yes, I think one of the most misunderstood bachelor's programs is psychology, which it's a fine major, but it almost forces you to have graduate work after the bachelor's degree. You're definitely going to have at least a master's degree. So it's amazing how many student athletes are interested in psychology until they realize there are some math components within psych. There are some statistical things that needs to be done and reports that need to be done. So once students take a hard look at the program and realize that they're really looking at least 6 years of college, they'll tend to shy away from it. But so that would be a major that they would certainly need grad school. And we do offer a 5-year combined BS MBA degree at St. John's, so a student can get their degree and their MBA in 5 years. And this has been very useful for us with the extra COVID year, as about 10% of our student athletes are actually in grad school. I mean, that's coming to an end because the COVID classes they're juniors now, but we've been able to put many kids in 5-year programs. One of your student athletes that came to St. John's is actually going to be back for a 6th year and not only have a combined bachelor's and master's, but she's going to have a certificate on top of that. So, even a program like sports management, if you combine a bachelor's degree in sport management with an MBA, that's a very powerful combination in the marketplace. If you're looking to be an athletic director or work at high level in pro sports, if you have those 2 degrees combined, that's very, very powerful in the market.
Great information. And yes, that's our Peyton Cody, who was on last week with our panel of student athletes. So yeah, we love her. And you've got Anissa there, and you've got Sarah Post coming. So you've got some
right. That's right.
talented athletes coming your way. So Tori would love to hear about Texas State. Whoops, Tori, you're on mute. Did I lose you? Yep, sometimes that happens when we get calls. I know I have to block my incoming calls. So, Tori, when you come back, let me know and you can hear us again. And I would like to, again, ask if there's any questions out in the audience before we get close to ending. But, Tori, if you can hear us, just go ahead and come off speaker. There you go.
Yeah, that's me. It was trying to retweet something, and I was like, no, I'm just trying to turn my mic on.
Oh, no problem. No problem. So, what about Texas State and some of the postgraduate degrees or some of the secrets there?
Yeah, definitely piggybacking off of what Ray said. The 2 here that I don't think a lot of students understand that you have to have some post grad coursework in to actually excel in that area of study is psychology and also social work. Because a lot of our students, they do understand the student athlete and just mental health aspect of just the world period, and they really have a heart of giving, but honestly understanding of how to do that in a more impactful way is going to, either getting your master's in social work and sitting for the licensure exam, or for psychology, going to, a grad program and eventually a doctorate program. So I do ask my students like, hey, okay, you're majoring in these 2 majors, or you're majoring in one or the other. What exactly is your end goal? And if they tell me that they really want to be a therapist, all right, cool. You do have more schooling. However, if this is something that you really, really want to do, that's perfectly fine. But I do tell my students now that the bachelor's degree is pretty much your ticket to get you into the party. What are you going to do to get yourself on the VIP list? So we do push a lot of our students who do have, or who are in that COVID realm, who do have extra, years. Go ahead and just get you a master's degree. You can do it in interdisciplinary studies, which is kind of like the master's portion of general studies, where you'll pick a area of need and you'll create a project over the next 2 years, depending on whatever area of need that you pick, and you'll just build research on that, on how you plan to change that area of need. That's 1. Or 2, we have a lot of students do our post-bac, or they'll do a non-degree seeking degree, where they are kind of picking and choosing courses depending on what they want to do. Like I know a lot of students, when they are having like a gap year, when they're trying to go to PT school, but their grades aren't as high as they need it to be, they'll do a non-degree seeking degree inside of our exercise and sports science program. And that way they can go ahead and just kind of figure out that first year, okay, is this something that they really want to do? Okay, if it is, great. Then they'll move on to year number 2. or they'll go ahead and we'll have them do the our Masters of Accounting program, which is our Macy program for our business students, where they can actually take grad and undergrad courses at the exact same time, so that way they can finish in 5 years instead of 6 years. But that one's just going to take a little bit more planning, a little bit more coursework throughout each semester, which I currently have a student doing that right now. But we really tell you, like, if you have those extra years, go ahead and just get that master's degree. Like, I promise, your bachelor's degree and your master's degree are built completely different. Your master's is going to focus on a lot more of you applying the knowledge that you have based on theory or based on your own opinion. All you have to do is just have information or um, journals or any kind of work to kind of back up why you think the way that you think, or why you have the answer that you have. And it's also really much like independent work. And they also have just more so the assignments are more so building on top of one another, rather than you taking a test and regurgitating the information that your instructor has given you. And also, too, like I said earlier, free school is the best school. So if you've got those extra years, like, go ahead and make that money stretch, and get your name on another piece of paper that's really signifies that you are top tier. And the more certifications and the more degrees that you have, just the more this kind of like knowledge and proof of knowledge that you have, you're going to be way ahead of anybody else in the job field.
That's incredible. So before I ask the last question to both of you, I want to remind the audience, to DM us any last questions. And also, if you have any ideas of what we want to listen to next week, because that's how we start each week, is figuring out what we're going to do next week. So I would love to hear your ideas or topics that we're missing. And that you can also go up to our media page up on our collegiatesportsadvocate.com website and see what we've done in the past. And I noticed that our last week's one with all of our student athletes isn't up there yet, so we'll get that one up there. But last one, what is your final advice, Tori, to these student athletes, and know that this is going to be recorded and sent out there, so we've got a lot more listeners, but is there any special last minute, give it to them all kind of advice?
Right now, last minute all advice is, you better than anybody knows you, right? So at the end of the day, this life is your life. Make sure you are making decisions based off of what you want, and understanding that whether it's school, it's softball, it's anything outside of that, this life is your life, so choose you. But also understand and really work with this mantra that choices equal consequences. Whether that's a good choice, bad choice, however you work, everything does have a consequence. But understanding that this lifestyle that y'all have chosen, being a student athlete, is the best thing you could have done. So just make sure you take full advantage of that. And if you do, you'll be way, 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 way better than anybody else who hasn't. And you're really going to succeed in this thing that we call the working world.
Love it. I always call it the 1% of the 1%ers in life. So yeah,
There we
let's all be
go.
1%ers. So,
Indeed.
Yes, Ray, what do you think?
I would say that go to college to learn, and don't chase grades, because if you are really there to learn, the grades will actually just magically appear. But to really become interested in the subject, the material that you're being taught, I think the overall experience is much better if you're not just chasing grades all the time, that if you're really trying to learn and get engaged with your professors and your classmates, and really trying to absorb as much of the experience that you possibly can. And there are just a couple of little things for student athlete success. If you can choose a school that offers priority registration for student athletes, I think that's a pathway that actually benefits you, so that you're not missing classes for your sport. I think it's a crucial part of your success as a student athlete. So if you do have an opportunity to choose a school that does offer priority registration, I think it makes a major difference. And finally, I've never met anyone who regretted being a business major. I think that business gives you the most bang for your buck. It's transferable. It allows you to work in almost any field. Um, and people that graduate with business degrees generally make more money sooner than other college graduates. So if you want to be a science major, that would be a separate path. But I would not um, discount business. And if you're concerned about certain aspects of it, that's why academic advisors are there. They're there to support you, to provide tutoring, and to help get you through the difficult classes. So um, anyone that comes into my office and they want to be a business major, it makes me happy. I feel very good about them. I know that they'll always be able to earn a living. If they're females, I feel like they're creating an independent situation for themselves where they don't have to rely on anybody for earnings. And I overall think it's just a great path for a student athlete. So those are my just a few bits of advice.
I love it. And Jackie is our co-host here, and she usually brings us in. And then just a reminder that she does have her NCAA everything games. And Jackie, I'll let you describe it more, but if you'll bring us home. And then don't forget to tell us what you guys want to hear next week. And I want to personally thank you all for coming. And Jackie always closes us out.
Absolutely. First off, thank you so much to the speakers tonight. I think it's extremely important that we understand that first it's student, then athlete, and that this is a major undertaking. But with both athletics and academics together, that you can propel your future, propel your leadership, and propel your success overall in life to give you a better understanding of the world, and also equip you with tools as you continue on. But overall, thank you. It was extremely knowledgeable. If you're out here as a recruit, you are one step ahead by listening to this, because I think that it's not provided enough on how important it is to understand the academic side. I think that there's tons of focus clearly on athletics, on how to go about it. But it's important to also navigate as a student athlete or a prospective student athlete. I do want to say yes, on Tuesdays, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern, we do an NCAA softball space. Of course, that's where that goes over the whole weekend roundup, and it covers everything D1. So it is a wild time. Feel free to come on in. But overall, thank you, Sherry, for allowing me to be your co-host tonight. As always, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, our valuable listeners. And go ahead and share this when it ends here. You can listen to it on record. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Tori and Ray. Have a good night.
You're welcome. Good night.
All right, good night, guys. Y'all have a great week.